you may have heard about this guy. He's very famous in China, at least he was. He's an MMA fighter. He's the guy who brought MMA to China, and he's been challenging all these wushu masters, kung fu masters, and what's the result of that?
Tai Chi and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, basically, he's going to these competitions and absolutely obliterating everyone because, unfortunately, these traditional martial arts in China are not as successful or effective as normal trained fighters, right?
Let's be totally honest. They're an art. Okay, they're beautiful. They're great exercise and stuff. But as far as self-defense is concerned, they're actually quite useless.
Well, to quote Xu Xiaodong, he actually said it's a great exercise tool for the elderly.
Yes.
But you can't train people and expect them to go out in public and defend themselves with an art form, a traditional Chinese art form.
Correct.
And I mean, he's got a point.
He does. He does. Here's the thing, though, guys. You often ask us to talk about the social credit system in China, right? Well, this is a very good example of the social credit system in action.
Do you actually remember, we said a few times, like, this is probably a year or two ago, people kept saying, you got to talk about the social credit system over and over again. And we were like, we thought it was a little unfair when we haven't seen it in action, right?
Yes.
We've heard about it on the news, Western and Chinese, but we haven't seen actual applications of this. But there's been a whirlwind of them recently.
Right.
And this is a good case, and this just happened.
Okay, so quickly break it down. Because he's been challenging these big wushu masters and stuff, the Wushu Federation of China, obviously with all their connections and all their guanxi and stuff, basically said that's enough, all right? And so they've accused him of basically, I don't know, denigrating the Chinese culture.
Sure.
They've accused him of being a spy,
Right.
a foreign spy to kind of like take away from China's culture. They've done all sorts of terrible things. And he's actually been forced now to pay 400,000 RMB to one of the masters that he so-called insulted. And what does he have to do for 7 days?
He has to go on Chinese social media and public media and apologize profusely 7 days in a row.
Yeah.
But there is also another stipulation.
What's that?
And that's if he wants to fight, because he's obviously popular. People are making money off of his presence, right? So not completely like blocking him off, but if they want him to fight in public rings, then he has to wear clown makeup.
He has to wear clown makeup and appear under a pseudonym and stuff.
Yeah, he can't use his real name because he's not allowed to promote himself.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to play a clip of something he released. For those of you who are listening along and can't see the subtitles, we will give you an idea of what's going on. So can we play the clip there again?
对，我告诉大家，我徐晓东就是一个屌丝。我徐晓东就是一个傻不拉几的一个网民。如果你是有素质、有见识的人，你们想想，我去趟美国我就成特务了，我去趟台湾我就成特务了，我接受了台湾2家电视台的采访，我就是特务了。我也不知道为什么，英国 BBC 广播电视台采访我。我说我要汇报领导，我傻傻的，可是我没领导啊。我说我是 MMA 第1人，我说错了吗？我是第1个中国人，中国籍，我现在是中国籍，我是中国人，代表中国人来打比赛。现在所有很多中国人来骂我。
Okay, can you pause it there? For those of you listening along, basically, what he's doing is he's pouring his heart out because he's been accused of being a spy. You know, he's very patriotic, right? And I mean, maybe you can say something about it before I continue.
Well, yeah, so you had a good point when you said the crime is like denigrating the Chinese values, traditional Chinese values and stuff. But the collusion here, how this actually happened, you'd have to be foolish if you think there was actually some like top government official that was like, you know what, this is not fair. Because the person who was working for CCTV, which is now CGTV, they were found out to be the president of like the Wushu Association, right?
Right.
So that person who has connections to this whole kung fu scene, that's the person who felt offended and had the kind of connections, or guanxi as they say in China, to actually go out on the news and make him into this evil demon of a character, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the majority of people that follow this kind of stuff are big fans of him in China. So this completely destroyed him.
Yeah.
So when you have a situation where somebody's at a D tier social credit score, they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything, their life is done. If he has kids in the future, they can't enter public schools, right?
Yes, they're going to have restrictions. He's only allowed to take the slow train. He's not allowed to take a fast train.
Right.
Not allowed to fly in a plane.
Right.
You know.
So you're seeing a broken man that's completely been destroyed by the media, and now the forces have turned against him. This once hero that brought MMA and this fighting scene and really tried to champion this new way to work out and exercise and promote Chinese values and stuff. That's all been wiped away, and he's been pushed to the brink. And this is actually kind of dangerous because he's now going to speak from his heart.
Yeah, the problem, and what he's saying there is that he says he's Chinese. Is he not Chinese? But now all the Chinese people are attacking him,
Right.
and accusing him of being a spy. You know, I can sympathize with him
Sure.
because that's what happens to us quite often. You know, the difference is that if I was Chinese and I had so much hate and denigration towards myself, I would be very upset, just like he is. Anyway, let's continue because there's something else.
Okay.
我请问你，你陈小旺，太极拳陈小旺，你是哪国人？你还是中国人吗？我20年待的地方，说没就没了。我在我自己的微博上，我写我很光荣，我是上海的教练，也不让我打了，都他妈让我删了，因为中国武协说了，不能让我有名。我现在全世界有名，是我需要都打出来的。
Yeah, we're gonna have to pause it here again. And all right, what's happening for those of you listening? He was a trainer and an instructor at a special academy. What was it, Shanghai or something? Sorry, I didn't get the actual name. But anyway, he taught there for over 21 years. Okay, as an instructor, and he's very proud of that, etc. But they have, because of this controversy, they've basically told him that they want to sever all ties. He has to remove any mention of them out of his social media, things like that. And of course, it's really deeply hurt him because he's the one who started MMA through that academy and did all this work and trained over 10,000 students and stuff during his time. So it's really hit him really hard.
Sure. Yeah, and he's derailed, you know. You see this, they're trying to wipe him. You can't search him or anything in China.
No.
They're trying to delete any sort of mention. But obviously there's forums in China where people still talk about it, and there's a lot of differing opinions. But this guy, I mean, without knowing the whole story, it's tough not to feel bad.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's not this whole, like, China's turning against him. There was collusion. He's been framed in a way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And now it's a national issue. You
Yeah.
can't escape that, China,
No, you can't.
unfortunately.
And you see, this is the danger of the nationalism, how it's weaponized. It's weaponized against people, especially individuals that are, you know, rising to fame, causing some kind of change, people that have influence. All of a sudden, the people that supported them and got them there in the first place by saying, "Oh, he's Chinese. We love you because you're Chinese and you're doing something great. So let's bolster you up." But then it can be turned around in a second to be like, "You're an enemy of China. You're against the Chinese
Right.
people," and this is the result. You can see it clearly.
I have some words, but I think we should finish his clips, and
Yeah.
then we'll go to the wide frame and we'll talk to you guys about
okay.
it.
All right.
谁支持过我？我看看怎么能加入。
Okay, wait. Let's just pause for a second because
Sorry.
yeah,
You get your chuckles out, guys.
yeah. If you see what's on the screen now, you've got the same guy. He's wearing like a gladiator's mask.
Right. I think it's from 300 or something.
Yeah. Anyway, the thing is, he's recently put this clip out because he's obviously just had it, right?
Right.
So let's play a little bit of the clip and then we'll
Sure.
tell you what's going on.
澳大利亚国籍，听说只能拿到一个永居，但是我争取来一个澳大利亚籍。你们说为什么？因为我爱国。听懂了吗？因为徐晓东爱国，想加入澳大利亚国籍。原来我也傻逼似的看建国大业，看完之后才发现，合着主要演员除了郭德纲是中国人，其他的都是外国人。哼，建国大业，真棒！建国大业。除了郭德纲，基本上吧70%全是外国人。不信你们自己看，有一个是一个从张铁林那儿开始，斯琴高娃什么开始，什么英
Yeah.
国
Can
人
you pause it there?
You can make us big again.
Yeah, you can go back to that. Basically, yeah, we're big. What happened there is the founding of a republic is a very high budget, sort of a communist China biography. How would you say? What would you say?
I would say it's a piece of propaganda, almost Hollywood level production value.
I remember when it came out.
Right.
All the small villages around where I used to live and stuff. They had actually set up. The government came in, set up big outdoor screens, and played it free for everyone to watch it.
Right.
It became a very important film for China.
Right.
In fact, it was so important that the guys that used to sell the fake DVDs down the road from me, they were allowed to sell any Hollywood DVDs fake, but if they sold that one fake, they would get shut down and detained and taken away.
It's funny because people always claim that there was no way to crack down on those guys, but they found a way when it came to that movie.
Anyway, what this guy's saying is that all the actors, except for one, in that patriotic film, actually, they actually have other nationalities.
Sure.
So they're either New Zealand or Canadian or from Hong Kong or whatever. Not only one of the actors is actually Chinese.
Sure.
So yeah.
This is what I wanted to say earlier, is that this looks like on the surface, if you do something against China, China will F you up, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it's much deeper than that, because here you have a very nationalistic guy.
Yes.
A very, very pro-China guy. This is the kind of guy that you drink beer with and he's like, you know, 外国,我们中国. You can get that impression from him, right? But even though he hadn't stepped out of line, even though he hadn't done anything, if you completely support the government, it's completely nationalistic in China, everything can turn in an instant.
Yeah.
And this is not a warning or anything, but a lot of people that do this, they think that if they're in some sort of turmoil or worried about their visa getting renewed, or even Chinese people themselves, if they shield the government and really just put themselves out there and look very, very blatantly nationalistic, that can turn on you in an instant, right?
Yeah, because if you become too famous, that's when things go wrong.
You become fodder for people with money. It's no different, right? Like, China's not running on nationalism necessarily. It's still running on money and connections, right? So this guy's been bitten, and it's a dangerous game. It sucks. It really sucks.
Anyway, the guy's name's Xu Xiaodong.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know how to spell that, it's an
you can look him up.
XU.
Yeah.
XIAODONG, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. So you can look him up and read his sad tale.
I mean, maybe there's stuff we're missing, but it looks pretty sad.
Yeah. Anyway, and we hope him the best, because he's fallen afoul of the social credit system. And for those of you who keep asking us to explain the dystopian social credit system, not only do we have a video about that on ADV China, you can go watch, but you can read his story and actually see it in action.
Sure.
I remember you. You lift my spirit. With you high is all I'm feeling. Remember.
We're going to be talking about these turbo liars.
I like this. What is the? Where were you going for there with the
It's
turbo
just,
liar?
you know, you can lie.
Yes.
But to tell a turbo lie,
I like a
it's like
turbo lie.
turbocharged.
I think
It's
this
like,
is
you know
sweet.
what I'm saying?
I like what you've done. So this guy is Turbo Liar, and she is too.
Yeah, we're going to start with her.
It's
Okay.
less about the people, by the way, guys. I want you to have this in the back of your head the whole time. It's more about this is definitely a Chinese government psyop.
So I'm sure many of you guys have seen these
At least
videos
part of
already.
something.
So we decided, let's look at these. They're going viral. Okay, let's see what's being said here. So let's look at Rosie the turbo liar
Okay.
first.
Who are the suppliers behind the Lululemon? Number one, Xianglong Apparel, who supplies the most yoga suits, and it is also OEM for Fila and Under Armour.
What did you have there?
Number two, Home T-shirt.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to make that point later.
Okay.
So we'll go back
No
to
worries.
it. So let's just first look at her.
Sure,
We'll go back
sure,
to that.
sorry.
Clothing, who produces yoga suits for Lululemon.
Really?
Okay, so for those of you who didn't catch what she said, she was this Xianghong or Xianglong, I can't remember the first one. She names two factories, and she says that they make the Lululemon stuff.
And why would she say that?
Because she's a liar?
Yeah,
a
but why
turbo
would she
liar?
say that?
Because
We have to let everyone know why these videos are coming out.
it's so that people think that they're being ripped off by these luxury brands and that they could buy directly from there rather.
Yeah, they're insinuating these accounts all over TikTok, by the way,
Yes.
which are getting hundreds of millions of views and likes.
Yes.
Are going out and saying that stuff that you want from nice brands is actually all made in China, and they're marking it up exorbitantly,
Yes.
and you can just buy directly from them because they're going to spill the beans. So what happened was China made this law where it's now legal to basically take any foreign brand in China that operates and can make counterfeits legal, basically.
Well, they've always been making counterfeits from the get-go.
Right, but they're being blatant about it, and they're fire hosing it into the Western social media sphere.
Yeah.
So right now, what they're trying to do is get these influencers to say, actually, you need us for everything that you buy, we make, and we're going to sell it to you at cost, basically.
Okay, what I want us to do quickly is let's take some notes quickly.
Sure.
Let's not get lost in the sauce here, guys.
I just wanted
Yeah.
you to know why.
For sure, let's take some notes. Okay.
Who are the suppliers behind the Lululemon? Number 1, Xianglong Apparel.
Okay, remember that name, Xianglong Apparel. This is very important, guys. Xianglong Apparel. Okay, that's number
Supplies
one.
the most yoga suits and it is also OEM for Fila and Under Armour. Number 2, Hongqi Sheng Clothing.
And then Hong Chi Sheng